Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most effective instances where an actor was made up to embody horror characters. Animatronic creatures will be saved for another day. Number 20, the Yautja, Predator franchise. Performing in the Yautja getup for the original Predator film allegedly didn't agree with future action hero Jean-Claude Van Damme. The kickboxer star was in the original film before being let go by mercurial producer Joel Silver.
He thought he was going to show his martial arts abilities to the world.
Martial arts. What's the big deal?
It would be Kevin Peter Hall that wound up replacing Van Damme, bringing with him an impressive height of 7 foot and 2 inches. This allowed the Yautja to be physically imposing, while Hall did his best to act through all of the prosthetic makeup. The end results speak for themselves, really, since Hall reprised his role in the 1990 sequel. Other actors such as Ian White and Brian A. Prince picked up the mantle from that point. Number 19, the Deadites and Evil Ash, the Evil Dead franchise. Bruce Campbell's legendary charisma tends to run hand in hand with the legacy of the Evil Dead franchise. That said, it's easy to forget how the first film utilized terrifying makeup and gratuitous gore to kick the franchise off back in 1981. The Deadites that appeared in both The Evil Dead and its more comedic sequel, Evil Dead 2, are very well actualized, despite all budgetary constraints.
Swallow your soul!
The Deadite Henrietta from this latter film was effectively gross, while the Evil Ash from Army of Darkness does a great job at showcasing a ghoulish side of Campbell. The less constrictive facial makeup also allowed for the actor to give Evil Ash more humor and quirkiness to his personality.
Ooh, I'm blind! I'm blind!
Number 18, Pennywise, It franchise. Viewers of a certain age will likely remember where they were the first time Tim Curry's Pennywise scared them half to death. Curry first brought this supernatural Stephen King entity to the small screen back in 1990, while Bill Skarsgård helped update Pennywise for a new generation. This dancing clown looks less like a traditional circus performer and more like nightmare fuel from the nu metal era. Both iterations feature outstanding practical makeup, with Skarsgård's Pennywise being combined with CGI for certain shots. In the meantime, those with calrophobia, or a fear of clowns, are pretty much guaranteed to have a bad time, anytime, every time, with Pennywise.
We'll float down here. Yes, we do.
Number 17, Crawlers, the Descent franchise. It would have been very easy for the production crew behind 2005's The Descent to make the subterranean crawlers 100% CGI. Yet it's horror fans that remain thankful for this film's decision to largely avoid this route. Instead, The Descent utilizes an array of talented actors to bring these blind killing machines to monstrous life. A cast of 10 actors and 4 in the sequel dons some convincingly grotesque makeup to play the crawlers. It isn't just the visuals that make these mutants frightening, however, but also the physicality that went into play as the crawlers stalk and kill. Meanwhile, their pointed ears, darkened eyes, and flat noses go a long way into making The Descent a true underground nightmare. Number 16, Lawrence Talbot, aka the Wolfman, the Wolfman. It's one of the most influential monster designs of all time, that of Lawrence Talbot as the titular Wolfman. Interestingly, we actually don't see a full man-to-wolf facial transformation until the 1943 sequel, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. The OG from 1941 instead features a transition scene viewpoint from Talbot's feet into a fully transformed lycanthrope. The ending does feature a reverse dissolve as the Wolfman expires into the form of Talbot. But does all the trivia really matter when the beast looks this cool? Jack Pierce's makeup work for Lon Chaney Jr. is the stuff of legend, embodying the beast in man and everything that has made fans howling mad for werewolves. Number 15, Bub and the Zombies, Day of the Dead. George Romero's Dead trilogy helped revolutionize horror cinema. The original's deathly serious tone and corpse-munching zombies were heavy-duty stuff back in 1968. Meanwhile, 1978's Dawn of the Dead upped the ante in terms of visceral violence and new gray-green shamblers getting their steps in at the Monroeville Mall.
But I don't think they'll get through. Can't they smash the glass? Safety stuff. Put it in the structure. They got no leverage under the truck.
None of these zombies possessed as much personality, however, as Bub from 1985's Day of the Dead. One subplot of this film involves research that's attempting to revive lost memories within the minds of the undead. Bub's makeup intentionally downplays his danger, since the experiments have made him comparatively docile and more human. He even manages to get ultimate revenge upon the film's ruthless antagonist, Captain Rhodes. Number 14, Assimilated Outpost Crew, The Thing. There's no denying that the assimilative alien species that runs rampant throughout Antarctic Outpost number 31 is a generational bit of monster making. However, we're highlighting the makeup work on human actors here, specifically some of the semi-absorbed Outpost crew. The Palmer Thing is a disgusting mixture of creature design and stunt work, while the Bennings Thing isn't allowed to finish assimilation. As a result, we see the meteorologist with mangled hands and a harrowing expression on its face. Speaking of faces, Gary is gruesomely killed by Blair Thing in a scene that utilizes some wince-inducing rubber effects to simulate Blair Thing's powerful grip. It's a great example of how special effects, performance, direction, and screenwriting can all come together in a near-perfect fashion. Number 13, Count Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. There was some serious blood-sucking history prior to the release of Bram Stoker's Dracula in 1992. Count Dracula, after all, is a character that's been played by such icons as Sir Christopher Lee and Bela Lugosi. Gary Oldman seemed more than game to lay his creative stamp on the character. However, an effort that was bolstered by some grandiose and over-the-top makeup.
Do not put your faith in such trinkets of deceit.
Oldman takes on multiple looks throughout the film, from warrior and lover to a demonic menace. It's this latter iteration that feels the most dramatic, almost leaning into camp as the makeup allows Oldman to disappear into the role.
He is now my bride.
The scene between Dracula and Jonathan Harker stands out in particular, as does Dracula's climactic demise at the end of the film. Number 12, Uruk-hai and Orcs, the Lord of the Rings franchise. Fans had waited a long time for J.R.R. Tolkien's fantasy world of Middle-earth to once again hit silver screens back in the 2000s. It had been years since Ralph Bakshi and Rankin and Bass's animated adaptations, and the Fellowship of the Ring promised high adventure and serious movie making. It succeeded on both counts while also delivering fan-pleasing makeup effects for its assorted bestiary. The Uruk-hai and orcs in the film were largely delivered in a practical manner, and this dedication to realism allowed their true monstrous forms to be unleashed. The night camp scene from the extended cut of The Two Towers is a particularly great showcase of how scary, real, practical monsters can be presented on screen.
We ain't had nothing but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
Why can't we have some meat?
Number 11, Count Orlock, Nosferatu, a symphony of horror. It speaks volumes that a film made over 100 years ago can still retain such a frightening power. Nosferatu, a symphony of horror, has been remade a number of times over the years, most notably with Klaus Kinski in 1979 and recently in 2024 by director Robert Eggers. The makeup for each version is outstanding, highlighting Count Orlock's emaciated yet intimidating presence. The long fingers, hunched gait, and pale skin all combine to elicit nightmares. But the original performance by Max Schreck is tough to beat. The actor's slow and deliberate walk drives viewers to madness, while that first Orlock reveal is perfectly framed and expertly photographed. Number 10. Grant Monster, Slither. James Gunn's now cult film harkens back to some old-school 80s gross-out practical magic. Poor Grant ends up in the wrong town at the wrong time as a bunch of alien slugs decide to take over the world.
You tried to kill me and run off with party.
Grant ends up being the first victim infected by the slugs, as he slowly becomes a tentacled monster and infects everyone else.
And I see that now. I'm here for you.
The Emmy-winning makeup team of Todd Masters and Dan Rebert took home a Saturn Award for their repulsively fantastic work here. Just don't watch without a barf bag.
I'll keep growing till I'm everywhere.
Number 9. Eric the Phantom of the Opera, The Phantom of the Opera. You can't have a makeup effects list like this without mentioning Lon Chaney, father of the Wolfman star. Nicknamed the Man of 1,000 Faces, Chaney was famous for creating his own makeup effects and transforming his face into many creatures and monsters with very little makeup or prosthetics. His most famous performance after being completely unrecognizable as the Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 years earlier was as the tragic and terrifying Phantom. Although the character is remembered for his broken mask, Chaney gave him new life when Eric's frightening face is revealed. It especially took audiences by surprise, considering that his hideous face was kept a huge secret until the film's premiere. Number 8. Darkness, Legend.
The last unicorn dies tonight.
The legendary Tim Curry is no stranger to heavy makeup, as we know from his performance in Stephen King's It. But he's practically unrecognizable as the Lord of Darkness in this overlooked fantasy film from Ridley Scott. His goal is to bring eternal darkness to the world by killing off all the unicorns, but all he succeeds in doing is bringing eternal nightmares to his viewers.
Come, legend. The birth of a new world awaits your stroke.
It took over 5 hours to apply Curry's makeup, and that dedication really shows. Oscar-nominated for Best Makeup Effects, Legend now has a well-deserved cult following, and that's largely thanks to its unforgettable villain.
All things change, lady. The dreams of youth are the regrets of maturity.
Number 7. The Pale Man, Pan's Labyrinth. Director Guillermo del Toro is a lover of practical makeup effects, as seen in his Hellboy movies. He also knows when to seamlessly mix in some CGI. The creatures he brings to life in this Spanish fantasy tale are breathtaking to say the least.
Iréis a un lugar muy peligroso. Tened cuidado. Lo que ahí dormita no es humano.
Although Fawn is incredible and the film's centerpiece, the Pale Man will give you nightmares and makes it impossible to believe that there is an actor under that makeup. But there is, and the actor behind both these creatures is none other than Doug Jones, a modern-day Lon Chaney and frequent collaborator of Del Toro. Number 6. David Kessler, An American Werewolf in London. This horror-comedy hybrid became the first film to ever win the Academy Award for Best Makeup.
I know where you can get a gun.
Don't I need a silver bullet or something?
Oh, be serious, would you?
It was also the first of several wins for makeup effects master Rick Baker, who concocted quite possibly the most famous werewolf transformation ever to grace the silver screen. The film follows the unlucky David as a werewolf attacks him.
You gonna help me up or what?
His friend is left dead and David's left in a hairy situation. Although more of a dark comedy, the transformation scene was one of the most terrifying movie moments of the 80s. To this date, we're still left wondering how exactly they pulled it off.
Please, run!
Number 5. Frankensteins Monster, Frankenstein. Just like Lon Chaney, one of the pioneers of earlier cinematic makeup effects was Jack Pierce. This special effects genius was nicknamed the Monster Maker, having been responsible for most of the creatures in Universal Studios' golden years of horror filmmaking.
Take care there, Frankenstein, take care.
Shut out the light.
His most famous and most recognizable work was Frankenstein's Monster in the 1931 classic, transforming Boris Karloff into the stoic but deadly creature come back from the dead. Although a huge departure from the source material written by Mary Shelley, Pierce's makeup has ironically become the most iconic version of the famous literary monster. Number 4. Seth Brundle, Brundlefly. The Fly.
My ear. No.
David Cronenberg's The Fly took a classic B-movie and turned it into a masterpiece of body horror. Jeff Goldblum plays Seth Brundle, a scientist who's working on a teleportation device. When Dr. Brundle tests it on himself and his DNA gets mixed with that of a fly that snuck into his machine, we watch in dread as he spends the entire film gruesomely and gradually transforming into a fly.
Oh, I think it's showing itself as a bizarre form of cancer. In general cellular chaos and revolution, I'm just gonna disintegrate.
The film received an Oscar for its makeup, awarded to the duo of Chris Walas and longtime Cronenberg collaborator Stéphane Dupuis. Who thought a fly could be so disgusting and empathetic at the same time? Number 3. Regan MacNeil, The Exorcist.
Your mother's in here with his cars. Would you like to leave a message? I see that she gets it.
The face that made multiple audience members faint upon its release, young Regan possessed by the demon Pazuzu has become one of the most iconic images in horror film history, and perhaps cinematic history in general.
Where's Regan?
In here with us.
Although this classic tale of demonic possession received many accolades, the makeup was largely overlooked. Many years later, Dick Smith, the genius behind The Exorcist makeup effects, as well as The Godfather, Taxi Driver, and Death Becomes Her, received an honorary Oscar for his varied body of work.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Number 2. Freddy Krueger, a Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
Please, God.
This is God.
What started as an idea in Wes Craven's mind became a reality in the hands of seasoned makeup effects specialist David Miller. In horror cinema, your story needs to be just as scary as your visuals, and Freddy Krueger's burned and scarred face is as terrifying and iconic as they get. After being the star of one of the most successful horror film franchises of all time, and first appearing in the 1984 original, it's sometimes hard to see actor Robert Englund's face without picturing the terrifying makeup that accompanied his most famous creation.
Come to Freddy.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Pinhead, Hellraiser franchise.
We have such sights to show you.
If this list has proven one thing, it's that makeup effects artists do not often get the credit they deserve. Having learned his trade on the sets of Star Wars and Alien, though his model building went uncredited for those, Bob Keane built a name for himself after teaming up with horror legend Clive Barker for this gothic indie gem. His makeup creation was so effective that without his Pinhead makeup on, nobody recognized Doug Bradley at the film's post-production party.
No, don't do that.
Go to hell!
Although Keane's later work on Nightbreed deserves much praise, the image of Pinhead rising from his hellish slumber alongside his fellow demonic Cenobites will forever be burned into the minds of all filmgoers.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Do you feel that practical effects are making a comeback? Let us know in the comments.
Where you going, Ed? If you lived here, you'd be home by now.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.